All right, so imagine this. Someone tells you, hey, get this U.S. immigration. It could look completely different in just a couple of years.
That's a big statement.
It is. And the reason people are even saying that is because of Donald Trump's 2025 immigration plan.
Ah, yes. I've heard some things. It's pretty ambitious.
Ambitious is putting it lightly. This thing is huge EE. We're talking potential changes to border security, asylum, even legal immigration and how it's enforced. We're talking a total overhaul, really.
Wow. Okay, so where do we even begin with something this massive?
Well, the plan itself is called Project 2025, and it's basically a framework with one major goal:
Hit me with it.
reducing immigration levels, like significantly.
I see.
And to do that, it suggests a whole bunch of, well, let's just say, interesting ideas,
Right.
like using the Alien and Sedition Acts.
Wait, those old laws? Seriously?
Yep, the ones from way back in the 1790s.
Wow. I mean, how would that even work?
The plan says they could be used to speed up deportations.
Seems like that could cause some serious legal issues.
And that's just one piece of it. We've also got stuff like ending birthright citizenship.
You mean like if you're born in the U.S., you wouldn't automatically be a citizen?
Exactly.
Oh.
And a naval blockade to stop drug cartels.
A naval blockade? That seems extreme. And also, how would that even work?
Yeah, we'll definitely need to dig into that. So yeah, this plan, it's a lot.
It sounds like it.
But to really understand it, we need to break it down piece by piece.
Agreed.
So let's start with the border wall.
Ah, yes. A classic.
Trump's been talking about this for years.
In this plan, it wants to finish it.
Complete it, yeah. But it goes even further. It calls for even more border security measures, things we haven't seen before.
Okay, like what?
Well, like I mentioned, a naval blockade.
Yeah, so what would that even look like? U.S. Navy ships off the coast of Mexico.
It seems that way, yeah. The idea is to try to stop drugs from coming into the country.
And would this actually work?
Well, that's one of the big questions. Some people say it's a logistical nightmare, that it would be effective and could even cause problems with Mexico.
I see.
And then there's the idea of, this is interesting, designating drug cartels as unlawful enemy combatants.
Whoa. That's a huge change. You're basically saying they're enemies of the state.
Right, and it would give the U.S. more power to go after them.
But wouldn't that also, like, blur the lines between law enforcement and the military?
Yeah, for sure. And some people are worried about the implications of that, what it could mean for things like due process and international law.
Right, right. Okay, so we've got the wall, the blockade. Anything else on the border security front?
Oh, yeah. The plan also calls for increasing the number of Border Patrol agents and using more technology like surveillance drones and sensors.
Okay, so the plan is making it way harder to cross the border illegally. But what about people seeking asylum? How does that factor in?
That's another big part of the plan. And it's gotten a lot of attention, especially the part about reinstating Remain in Mexico.
Right, so that's the policy that says asylum seekers have to stay in Mexico while they're waiting for their cases to be heard in U.S. courts.
Exactly.
And this plan wants to bring that back.
It does. And it also suggests potentially using Title 42 expulsions.
Title 42, that's the one that lets the U.S. turn away migrants based on public health concerns.
Yep. It was used a lot during the pandemic.
And this plan wants to use that again, even though the pandemic is, basically over.
That seems to be the idea, yeah. And these are policies that have been heavily criticized by human rights groups. They say it's dangerous and unfair to make people wait in Mexico, where they might be vulnerable to violence or exploitation.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a concern.
So yeah, the plan is pretty tough on asylum seekers. But it also takes aim at legal immigration. And this is where things get really interesting.
Play it on me.
Well, have you ever heard of ideological screening?
Not really. What's that?
It's basically a way of vetting potential immigrants to see if their beliefs align with, I guess you could say, American values.
Whoa. That sounds a little subjective.
Right, like who decides what's acceptable?
And how do you even measure someone's ideology?
Exactly. It's a very controversial idea.
Makes sense.
And then there's the proposal to expand the Muslim ban.
Right, the travel ban on people from several Muslim-majority countries.
This plan wants to add more countries to that list.
I remember that being really controversial when it was first put in place.
Yeah, lots of people said it was discriminatory and targeted people based on their religion. And then the most controversial part of the whole plan, at least in my opinion, is ending birthright citizenship.
Yeah, that's a big one. So if your parents aren't U.S. citizens, even if you're born here, you wouldn't automatically become a citizen yourself.
Exactly.
That's a huge change. And I imagine it would be incredibly difficult to actually do.
Absolutely. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution guarantees birthright citizenship. To change that, you'd need a Supreme Court ruling.
And that's not likely to happen easily.
Nope. So yeah, the legal immigration part of the plan is pretty radical.
For sure. And then on top of all that, we have the enforcement piece. And this is where the Alien and Sedition Acts come in.
Right, those old laws from the 1790s.
The plan says they could be used to deport people more quickly.
But aren't those laws, like, about suppressing dissent? Wouldn't using them for immigration enforcement be a problem?
Yeah, a lot of legal experts think so. They say it would raise serious concerns about due process and civil liberties.
So basically the plan is saying, let's take these really old laws that were meant for a very different time and use them in a whole new way that could potentially violate people's rights.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right.
And then there's the idea of increasing federal involvement in immigration enforcement.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means giving more power to agencies like the FBI and the DEA to go after undocumented immigrants.
Ah, I see. So it wouldn't just be Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, anymore.
Right. And the plan even talks about using the National Guard. Wow. So it's not just about building a wall. It's about creating a whole system, a more centralized and possibly militarized approach to immigration.
That's a pretty way to put it, yeah.
And underlying all of this, I mean, the wall, the deportations, the changes to legal immigration, it's all part of this goal to create a merit-based immigration system.
Right. The idea is that the U.S. should only let in immigrants who have certain skills, qualifications, or education levels.
Basically, people who can contribute to the economy.
Exactly.
But how do you even define merit? I mean, wouldn't that create a system that favors certain professions, certain types of people?
Those are some of the big questions, yeah.
Oh.
And some critics say it would make it a lot harder for families to reunite in the U.S.
Right, because family ties wouldn't necessarily be considered a merit.
Right.
So this is all, as you said before, part of Project 2025. And the goal is to drastically reduce immigration levels.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, why? Why is that the goal?
That's a good question. And there are a lot of different answers, depending on who you ask.
Right, but what does the plan say?
Well, it talks a lot about protecting American jobs and wages, and about preserving American culture and values.
So the idea is that fewer immigrants equals a stronger America.
That seems to be the argument, yeah.
But is that really true? I mean, immigrants have always been a vital part of American society, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They contribute to the economy, they enrich our culture, they bring new ideas and perspectives.
Exactly. So wouldn't reducing immigration actually hurt the country in the long run?
That's what a lot of people are saying.
I see.
And they argue that this plan, with its focus on enforcement and restrictions, would make the U.S. a less welcoming and less diverse place.
And they say that that would go against the very values that America is supposed to stand for.
Right.
So ultimately, this plan raises some really big questions. Questions about what it means to be American, about who gets to decide who belongs here.
It's a debate that's likely to continue for a long time.
It certainly seems that way. It's a conversation we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely. This plan has the potential to reshape the country as we know it. So it's important for everyone to understand what's at stake.